Still, more than 100 Americans who are still there. Officials say they will still have an opportunity to leave.
And Afghans who want to leave, they will not be denied that opportunity.
President Biden is expected to address the nation today about the withdrawal of all troops from Afghanistan. I'm Yolanda Harris.
And I'm Dave James on the Ohio News Network.
Calls and conversations continue in less than 3 minutes as the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues after this.
Babies come with lots of decisions.
Cloth or disposable? Crib or bassinet?
So when it comes to protection, go with the safest, most effective choice, vaccination. Get all the recommended vaccines for your baby by age 2 to protect your child.
A little music bumper there is always good, huh? Yeah, why not? Okay, thank you. It downloads from Radio Spider. Yeah. All right, let me double check. I'll check it when I get off the air. Either we might have jumped the gun and started too soon, or we haven't put it up yet. I'll check when I get off the air. Thanks. Nope, thanks. I appreciate that. It's good to know. That's not good. Okay, I'll check it as soon as I get off the air. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yep, okay. Okay. Yeah, because I think I scheduled Metro at 8 o'clock, so, okay. Okay, I'll check all that stuff.
7754 to schedule your appointments for dog grooming, doggy daycare, and dog boarding today.
From the Watchdog, here is your local weather forecast for your Tuesday. A chance of showers and thunderstorms, high of 80. Tonight, showers and thunderstorms likely with a low of 66. And for your Wednesday, showers and thunderstorms are likely with a high of 74. And that's your local weather forecast from the Watchdog.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Good morning, beautiful. Good morning, beautiful. Who are you? Who are you?
I am basically a matchmaker.
Really?
Why?
Today is National Matchmakers Day.
You're a great matchmaker.
Are you trying to play matchmaker right now?
I thought you two would be perfect together.
Matchmaker. A matchmaker.
Love is in the air.
Boom! Love is in the air.
This is why you played matchmaker.
It's showtime.
The Valley is nearing a return to normal, and we're celebrating with the 100 days of summer. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. That's from Fiddler. That's from some Broadway show. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. I always wonder, I wonder how many couples ask themselves this question. If you were to have had a matchmaker look at you and your spouse, somebody you've been with for a long time. My wife and I have been together for well over 40 years. If a matchmaker were to have looked at us, would they have said it's a good match? I'm not so sure.
I know.
We made it.
Didn't they use that song that you were humming there? Wasn't that in Mrs. Doubtfire too?
May have been. I'm trying to remember words. Yeah.
I think
matchmaker, make me a match.
I think it was in Mrs. Doubtfire. I think
it could be.
I think it was the one where he met his. He went in to get the mask, with his two buddies, and they finally got the right one. And when they did, I think that's what they sang. I don't know why I remember that from Mrs. Doubtfire, but for some reason that movie was in my mind that's where it's from.
Yeah, I don't know, but it came into my head when they were talking about today being National Matchmaker Day. And again, I just wonder how many long-time couples would ever have been matched up with a matchmaker. Would it have been a good match? I'm thinking if somebody else had looked at my wife and I all those many years ago, when we first met at the Rose Cafe in Martins Ferry, they would have said, "Whoa, no." Whoa, no, not these two. So we'll see. Coming up today, preparing for some heavy rain locally in the aftermath of Ida. How big a problem we're going to have. Zach is watching that for us over at the Big 7. And we're going to see rain coming in tonight and tomorrow. Going to be pretty heavy all day tomorrow. And we could see some flooding. Flash flood watch is in effect. We're looking for 1 to 3 or 4 inches of rain, depending on where in the upper Ohio Valley that you are. America's longest war is over. All the military is out of Afghanistan, but what's next for the people of Afghanistan? What will our non-military involvement in the country be? Will terror groups grow in power again? Some of the things that we talked about with our Pentagon reporter and national correspondent Tom Squitieri last hour. If you didn't catch the interview, pretty good one. I made Tom cry. I don't know when the last time I made somebody cry was. I feel bad. But you can catch that on our podcast page later in the day today. Contract awarded for rehab of the Wheeling Suspension Bridge. We'll review what we know about that project. Governor Justice again outlines the rising scope of COVID. Again bemoans how terrible it is, how vile, how dangerous, how disgusting it is. It's terrible. We're dying. And then says, but I can't do anything about it because people get upset. And that may be where I get on my soapbox a little bit later on. But right now I want to talk about something that I think is really neat, is fun, is interesting, has some distinct possibilities here in West Virginia. And it begins with, Biffy, my favorite subject.
Food?
Food. Food. Keely Steele is a restaurateur in Charleston and also a member of the Charleston Council, and she's with us here this morning. Keely, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us about, because this is going to be about restaurants. Tell us about the restaurant that you have. Actually, you have a couple of restaurants, right?
Well, I used to have 3, and at the moment I'm down to my one little bakery, Starling's Coffee and Provisions, and we're only open 5 days a week, and we make fresh bagels and sort of specialize in breakfast and coffee service. I sold one restaurant during COVID, and the one that probably we're most notable for, Bluegrass Kitchen, is still on hold for a little while due to some staffing issues, but we hope to see that one come alive again here in the next few months.
Well, let me talk generically about staffing issues. You can help me with that as a restaurateur, and it leads us into what I want to talk about, which is the High Roads Restaurant One Fair Wage grants. But what's the problem with staffing? What are you finding? Why can't you staff people? What's going on out there? Everybody's got the problem. Why is that?
Well, everyone does have the problem, including the food service purveyors. So even the large, companies, conglomerates that deliver us food, Cisco and U.S. Foods and those guys, they're even struggling getting, drivers. So I can't be off scheduled deliveries anymore right now. I have to do exactly what I need, and I'm sort of slated to 1 day a week and an exact day. So that's all pretty new to me as well. I can't speak for everyone in the industry, of course, but I can speak for myself. And being in the business for the last 15 years as an owner, I previously bartended for many years of my life. But as an owner, I prided myself on having staff that stuck around with me for a long time. When COVID hit, a lot of my senior staff decided to make life changes, and I don't think I'm the only one who had that issue. So, lots of folks, go back to school, go find a different trade. Some of them moved, but overall, I think the idea that they didn't have to give away every weekend, of their lives just to make tips became more appealing, when the restaurants closed down.
I think COVID we've called it the COVID pause. The country really paused for a while last year with nobody working and so on. And I think in that pause, an awful lot of people did what you did, which was kind of reflect inwardly and say, what am I doing? Is this what I want to do?
Absolutely.
Is there something better?
Well, you have to be pretty passionate about this business to make any headway in it at all. It requires 24/7, 7 days a week. And I will tell you, as someone who's been doing it for the last 15 years with 3 restaurants and 50 plus employees, having my life back a little bit. I sent a son to college last year for his first year. It enabled me to spend some extra time with him, and I still have a daughter at home who just started middle school. So, it definitely gave some time to reflect for sure.
There's certainly a general belief that one of the reasons it's hard to staff up, especially for restaurants, food service places, and so on, and other retail for that matter, is pay is low, hours are bad, benefits are little, and that people have just who accepted that for a long time said, I don't have to accept that anymore. Do you think that to be true?
Well, again, I think that folks just got some time to do some inner reflection and what quality of life means. And a quality of life means you should make a living wage. You should be able to take your family on holiday. You should be able to buy a house. You should be able to pay your car payment. And, for a long time, that wasn't perhaps the norm. I have lived in places where people have careers as servers, right? And larger cities do have those kind of sort of unionized benefits and that kind of thing. West Virginia isn't one of those. And our minimum wage has been sitting there for quite some time. And though some of our servers make decent money, I do think trying to make sure that we set folks up for a really great future, and to have time, that quality of life, to be able to do other things.
I've had friends who've worked actually locally, but also in larger cities, who make actually very good livings as a restaurant server or a bartender or what have you, depending on the type of place they're in and depending on the type of tips they get. But you kind of are, to quote, was it Tennessee Williams, you're kind of dependent on the kindness of strangers to make that money, because it usually has to come in the form of tips.
It does, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to handle cash in a responsible way. I will tell you that as someone who was also a bartender for many years. You get off work at 2:00 in the morning and you have a pocket full of cash. You're also hyped up, because it takes a while to sort of come down from working a 9-hour shift, and balancing cash is not easy. And I'm not saying that folks can't do it, because I know plenty of people who have. But I do think it definitely takes a different mindset in order to be able to do that.
Can a restaurant survive if they go away from making it tipped wages and actually pay real wages?
Well, my coffee shop does. We just celebrated 11 years, and Now, granted, it's a slightly different model. Baristas don't typically make the kind of tips that, say, a full-service server would at a sit-down restaurant. But my baristas do pretty darn good. And one of the things that we did when we got involved with High Road Kitchens was to start pooling our tips. And it's just been a really great learning curve for me, because what it has meant, and those of us in the industry know this to be true, there can be a lot of, not infighting, but, maybe not quite the camaraderie you would like from the back of the house and the front of the house. And so we've always made sure that, to tell our servants, keep your money information to yourself. The back of the house, at the end of the day, could be making less than a couple of the servers who worked a 5-hour shift. So that puts a bad taste in folks' mouths sometimes, and, no pun intended, but So at our restaurant, we've gone ahead and implemented a tip pool, which means that a certain percentage of the servers' tips go straight back to the kitchen. It has raised the kitchen's wages. It has made it a much more of a team, a partnership. The food goes out better, it goes out faster, it goes out hotter, it goes out more consistent. Everybody's in the game together, and that's been a really great thing that happened when I did it.
I have a son who's been a long-time chef and cook on the line, and so I understand. I understand the frustration sometimes that you're talking about there. To go to a system like you're talking about, a pooled tipping system, which, by the way, I think makes a lot of sense. I always feel bad when I'm tipping a waitress, for example, and I'm thinking about, but what about the folks who cook the food back there? It requires a lot of customer education, though, doesn't it? Because we're used to simply saying, she gave me a nice smile, I give her a big tip.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it takes some training. Personally, we get a lot of travelers that come through because of our proximity to the state capitol and exit 99. I generally find that folks that travel and seek out local eateries are a little more educated in how those kind of things work. They're going out of their way to give money to, keep money within the local industry and not at larger conglomerates. So, but, I had this whole conversation a couple of weeks ago with someone else, and, during the big water crisis of 2014, we ended up implementing a service fee on all of our checks that didn't even go to the staff. It literally came back to the restaurant because for 6 months, we didn't even turn on our ice machine. So we were giving people bottled water. We were buying ice at all 3 of our restaurants. We invested heavily in all kinds of water filtration, devices and stuff. So that was 3% across the board, and we didn't get one complaint. So I really think that people are a lot more understanding and probably smarter than we give them credit for here in West Virginia.
And I do think you're right. Folks who tend to patronize local restaurants have a better understanding of who's there and who they're helping us. I think that's probably true as opposed to a franchise. That I would concur with you on that. So, first of all, by the way, how is your business post-pandemic?
Well, honestly, the bakery is doing probably better than it did before, but in a different way. What we lost was an incredible amount of revenue making desserts for our full-service restaurant. So that was, that's hundreds of desserts a week that we don't see the money for any longer. But it has forced us to sort of really hyper-focus on what we do well, which is breakfast sandwiches and homemade breads and pastries and getting food out to people really early in the morning at 7:30. So that's no easy task, and it's also no easy task to find people that'll show up to work at 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning. So we've managed to do all of that, so I think we're doing okay.
You mentioned earlier, and I think it's true, that people are reassessing how they want to work. I have found that a lot of businesses, and in particular food businesses, have kind of reassessed where their strengths are and where they're not. A lot of people who didn't do any kind of takeout have discovered that they have a very big clientele now for takeout, and they're kind of realigning the way they do things, as one example. So, I think the businesses also have kind of, and you're really just confirming this, businesses have kind of reassessed what they're all about now, too.
I think so. My model has always been be as local as possible, and so we've lost some of our vendors. For instance, I called my cheese vendor a couple of days ago, who I used to buy artisan cheeses from in Paw Paw, West Virginia, and her business is booming. She has gone from wholesaling large wheels and half wheels of cheeses, which is what I used to buy from her, to selling at a retail cost at farmers markets. And she's selling so well at the farmers markets that she's no longer supporting the wholesale industry right now. So, I think that there are people that definitely, pivoted. And I always like to think that, my husband and I, who, by the way, I met the old-fashioned way at a record store.
Would a matchmaker have chosen the two? Would a matchmaker have chosen the two of you to be together?
I don't. I think the matchmaker would have had much more mercy on my husband than that, probably. But we're getting ready to celebrate 21 years in 2 days, so not too bad. But yeah, so I think, we can turn on a dime. We don't have to, small businesses don't necessarily have to answer to anyone except for the government and the IRS, right? So if we want to change our business model, we are fully capable of doing that. And most of us who, especially if you don't have like outside business partners, you can do it pretty quickly. And that's what we did.
Now, you mentioned earlier High Roads Kitchen, which is what caught my attention last week. I never heard of this before, but it's sort of an umbrella program or a program under the umbrella of the One Fair Wage Group. What is the High Roads Kitchen program? What's that all about?
So High Roads was sort of born and conceived out of a response for COVID and, a lot of the challenges that our communities were facing. So, ultimately their goal is to help support and uplift small businesses, to help restaurant workers who were laid off and furloughed, due to the crisis to, be able to get back into the industry with a higher wage and also to feed people that are food insecure. The interesting thing about the feeding folks is, I think if you talk to probably any restaurant, at least in West Virginia, but I'm sure across the country, restaurants are really already doing some of these things. Outside of raising the wage, a lot of restaurants are used to donating food and time and energy to community efforts. So that was an easy one for us.
And they've started a grant, I won't say contest, I guess, a grant program here in West Virginia where some restaurants will have a chance to get some grant money depending on how they handle their wages. Is that right?
Well, it requires 3 commitments in order to apply. And so you go on, you apply. I'm happy to send you, if they haven't already done that, I can send you the link that you can post on your site if you like. But the commitments are to prepare and distribute at least 500 meals to their community through however they feel like that needs to be done. It could be through a charitable organization. It could be having some kind of fundraiser, however that gets done. The other commitment is to scale up to one fair wage within the next 5 years. So right now, West Virginia is at $8.75. So that would mean in the next 5 years, one of the promises you would make was that your bare minimum wage would be $8.75 plus tips. That's a pretty big jump from what we pay servers now, which is generally around $2.13, $2.30 an hour.
That's the wage, yeah.
Correct. And then the last thing is to take a race and gender equality training program within 9 months of being accepted into the program. There's no one out there that isn't going to benefit in some way from taking that regardless. So they're pretty low commitments. And especially up in some parts of West Virginia, folks are already having to pay a fair wage. I mean, if you can't get staff, you have to pay. I mean, and people, if they have to drive an hour and a half to work, then they're blowing a lot of their money anyway. So trying to keep it local, trying to allow people to stay home with their family, their children, and be able to work as closely as possible is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, it's. I was talking to some people yesterday at one of the local stores here. It's not a restaurant; it's a retail store. But they've had to cut back on their hours and everything. Why aren't people working? I said, well, people have discovered, I think, that 12 hours a week, even at minimum wage, if you have to drive and you have to do this, at some point it becomes almost counterproductive. I mean, people are beginning to, and people are starting to think about their quality of life. But I think your point is about the 3 things that you need to do to be eligible for these grants are things that probably most good restaurants, I hate to say good, that's a bad phrase, but most, you know what I mean, most good restaurants do. I don't know any local restaurant that I enjoy frequenting that I think is good in terms of their attitude, their servers, their service, and their food that doesn't contribute greatly to the community in terms of, free meals, helping out all the charitable organizations. So that's almost a given for anybody.
Absolutely.
Raising up to the one fair wage seems like a thing that I think a lot of folks ought to consider. And then The gender equality program is something else too. So I don't think those are right. Now, what happens? So people can then apply for a grant, and they have to meet these criteria, and they have the chance to get some grant money. Is that the way it works?
Correct. So they're basically making promises. They're making these three promises. One of the great things about this grant, and at the moment, Pirates has earmarked $50,000, basically 7 restaurants for $7,000 grants around the state of West Virginia. And quite frankly, there is room for that to maybe go up if there's a lot of interest. I spoke to them today. I was approached, months ago about signing on to some legislation, and a grant program was casually mentioned, and of course that's what I latched on. That's what I latched onto for sure, and tried to get this momentum, and and I thought, okay, that's great. I can apply for one of these, but 7 restaurants. How many restaurants can we help? The other great thing about this money is it's basically non-restrictive, right? And it's a very short, and when I say non-restrictive, you make these 3 promises, but what you end up doing with that, if it means that you need to help pay your payroll, great. If it's, you need to pay your bills, great. If you want to improve your outdoor seating, great. You have the capacity to do that. But also, the idea that, we might be able to get a few more of these is an awesome plan. And I don't know, I'm just really excited about it. They've put these plans, these grant programs out in California and New York City and Boston and Chicago. And I think the fact that we got them to hone in on West Virginia is kind of a coup, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I did some reading on this stuff, and I think it's the whole concept is good. And as my producer mentioned at the beginning of the show, when it comes to food, it's one of my favorite subjects.
Well, food, air, and water. What else have we got at the end of the day?
I said during the whole pandemic, and I have some health issues, so I really was a hermit during the key of the pandemic. And the one thing I missed the most, and Biff, what's the one thing I missed the most during the pandemic?
Going out to restaurants?
Going to lunch. To me, lunch was such an integral part of my daily life. Getting together with some friends or coworkers and having a nice, good lunch and maybe an extra cup of coffee. And God, I couldn't do that for a year. Oh, it was just horrible. Are you worried about the spread of Delta right now?
Absolutely. There you go. Yes. As I said, I have a daughter at home that's too young to be vaccinated. We are in an industry that sees a lot of travelers and a lot of folks that we don't know. We have definitely seen an enormous uptick in our customers wearing masks just over the last 2 weeks. We're back to implementing our front of the house wearing masks now as well. So I'm worried about it all. I'm worried about our industry. I'm worried about our state. I'm worried about our people. I'm from here. I'm born and raised in West Virginia, left and came back. And, when I decided to stay here, I wanted to help make it better. So I am worried. I am concerned. And we're just right down the street from a community clinic called Health Right, and they are doing free COVID tests and boosters, and the lines are down the block today. Yeah. So, yes, I am worried, but I'm also glad people are being proactive and they're in line to get those COVID tests and booster shots.
Yeah, I'm very worried about it too. You've been a council member how long?
I'm finishing up my 2nd term, so I guess the election's next year. So I've got maybe 7 years.
Going to run again?
I am.
So you enjoy it?
I do. Yeah, I do. I will say that I do. I was always, I've been involved in community efforts for a long time. I sit on a couple of nonprofit boards that are specific to sort of my interest. I sit on the board of West Virginia Rainbow Pride, and advocating for LGBTQ+. And I also sit on our Charleston Main Street board, which is a small business organization. So I've been doing those things for a long time. So I was happy to put on my council hat, and I hope I can serve another term.
You would have spanned both Danny Jones's last term and now Amy Schuler Goodwin's first term, yes?
Indeed, yes.
How the two compare?
I like them both.
My audience will be surprised at this because I like them both too. I certainly am a more progressive person. I've known Amy for years and years and years. She's a Wheeling native, of course, and I've known her for a very long time. And I got to know Danny fairly well as well. And although I would take issue with some of the things that he did and said sometimes, I always enjoyed Danny Jones too. Plus, he's a restaurateur now too.
Again,
yes.
Again, yeah. And honestly, that's probably one of the favorite things that I had about him. He and I enjoy talking shop quite often. When it comes right down to it, their politics may be different. The way that they do things and address people is often different. But I don't think that you could find two people that love this city and the state any more than Danny Jones and Amy Goodwin. So I'm happy to have served under both of them.
I would agree with you on that. Hey, I'm sorry I kept you longer than I planned to, but it's been really delightful conversation. I appreciate it. And next time I'm down that way, I'll stop in and say hi.
Okay. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Keely Steele is a Charleston council member, but that's really not the point of this. It was because she is a restaurant owner, owned several at one time, sold one, hasn't opened the other one. I guess the Bluegrass Kitchen is really, her full-service restaurant is really quite popular, but it's not quite ready for reopening yet. Her Starling's Coffee and Provisions is kind of a coffee shop, breakfast place. Which actually sounds pretty good right now, Biff.
Yes, it does.
That sounds actually pretty good. All right, I appreciate her joining us. I came across this High Roads Kitchen concept and this grant program that they're doing here in West Virginia last week, and I wanted to follow up on it a bit, so I appreciate her joining me. Well, 9:37, 23 till the hour here. Watchdog Morning Show, 74 here at my home studios, about 72 at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, and 72 at the Robinson Auto Group studios. Rain coming in later in the day, flash flood watch later in the day. Headlines from our friends at Metro News right now.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Virginia Metro News, I'm Carrie Hudasega. Concerned.
She was pretty good. I liked her. Keep her on my Rolodex in case I need Charleston commentary at some point.
Meeting in the first floor of the Science Building and the lower level of the Education Building. Several areas saw significant damage from flooding Monday night after 4 inches of rain fell there. We could see 2 to 4 inches of additional rain from Ida. In an effort to get older residents vaccinated against COVID-19, Governor Jim Justice is launching a program aimed at West Virginians raising grandchildren.
We're going to offer a $150 school voucher to all of our grand families who get themselves and their grandkids vaccinated. This is an effort really more directed just at our kids.
Registration starts next Tuesday. A Putnam County woman has become the first West Virginian to plead guilty to a charge related to the January 6th U.S. Capitol riots. Grayson Courtwright of Hurricane admitted to 1 federal misdemeanor and now faces several months behind bars when she's sentenced later this year. You're listening to Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. Nicholas County Delegate Heather Glasgow-Tully is speaking out against vaccine mandates for hospital employees at WVU Medicine in Morgantown and Wheeling. She says hospitals could lose employees due to the mandate.
I'm not certain by mandating a vaccine, if you lose additional nurses, that is going to create any better situation for the hospital or the patients that are there in the hospital receiving treatment.
WVU Medicine employees are required to be fully vaccinated by October 31st. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Carrie Hudasek.
Monday was not a good day for a couple of players on the special teams, as the Steelers handed out 2 pink slips. Gone is punter Jordan Berry and long snapper Cameron Canada, both released. But kicker Chris Boswell, his job, for the time being, is safe. Presley Harvin III will punt. Christian Kuntz, who played at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, is the long snapper. More cuts must be made by late afternoon for the Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, all teams in the National Football League. Let's hear from head coach Mike Tomlin.
It's always difficult. It's difficult whether you have games. It's difficult if you don't have games because you just got a level of respect for what these guys put into this process. It's a culmination of a lot of work, not only dating back to the spring, but just really all of their football lives. And so we're highly sensitive to that. We're respectful of that. Business has to get done, but it gets done with that sensitivity and that understanding.
Meanwhile, a fight broke out Monday as tempers flared between Chase Claypool and Minkah Fitzpatrick. Both players, of course, were not made available to the media. Meanwhile, the last-place Pittsburgh Pirates handed out a pink slip. Gone is hitting coach Rick Eckstein. The Pirates visit the Chicago White Sox tonight. The Pirates on the road, 20-45. I'm Bill DeFabio on sports, and we are the Watchdog.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Hey man, what can I get you?
Yeah, can I have 2 Coors Lights?
You got it. Hey Mike! I need 2 Coors Lights!
Sure thing. With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time. Here you go.
Thanks, Mike. Doing a great job. All right, 2 ice-cold Coors Lights.
That's the coldest beer I've ever had.
Hey, they don't call it the world's most refreshing beer for nothing.
Okay, be honest with me. Do you really have the Rocky Mountains in your beer cooler?
You don't believe it? Check it out.
Man, that's pretty amazing.
I know, right? I can't believe it myself sometimes. I mean, this cooler is only 3 feet wide.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection. Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
Wheeling Coin and Hobby on 10th Street in Wheeling, next to the Bridge Tavern in downtown Wheeling, wants to buy any and all unwanted gold and silver jewelry. They are paying top dollar for 10, 14, 18, and 22 karat gold plus 925 sterling silver. They also want to buy collectible coins and paper money from before 1933. Wheeling Coin and Hobby is open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Saturday. Coin and Hobby, 304-232-8430, and add them on Facebook.
Hello, everyone. It's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Call me today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
West Virginia Outdoors is the Mountain State's only hook and bullet radio show, dedicated to the more than 250,000 hunters and anglers across the state. Award-winning host Chris Lawrence has been tracking down hunting and fishing stories for more than 25 years.
Went in behind a little birch tree at its head. I reached down and got the bow positioned and found its horns and dropped down and shot it in the neck.
Whether it's hunting and fishing news,
it tracks real super well, but not with a 60-pound carp tied to the side.
Or just compelling stories about the enjoyment of the great outdoors.
How close did you let him get in before you let fly on him?
He was about 18 yards, Chris. He got turned in the right angle there, and I touched off the trigger, and when I hit him, he ran kind of up the hill, which scared me at first.
West Virginia Outdoors covers it all. Saturday mornings at 7:06 a.m. And for your daily fix, Outdoors Today brings you 2.5 minutes of news and notes from the woods and water every weekday morning. No one covers the great outdoors like Chris Lawrence. And Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
If you miss a part of the show or want to listen again, you can find conversations, interviews, and rants on our podcasts at Apple Podcasts or on WatchdogNetwork.com. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
By the way, Biffy, congratulations to Chris Lawrence. He has been inducted, or will be this weekend, inducted into the West Virginia Broadcasters Hall of Fame, joining very important people like me and Brenda Dainhart and Steve Major and a bunch of others. Chris probably should have been in there sooner than us, to be honest with you. But Chris Lawrence inducted into the West Virginia Broadcasters Hall of Fame this weekend. Chris, of course, does West Virginia Outdoors. You heard a promo for that. He also he does their morning news show, which sometimes fills in for me when I'm away. He does some of our morning newscasts from time to time. He's just a delightful guy, right, Biffy?
Yeah, and he also does, I know, some sideline reporting for the Super Six, and also, I don't know if he does it for football, and if, he may do it for both football and basketball, but if you catch a game right when it's like the first game of a session, or even after a game ends, then you get that minute in between. Whenever you hear the little stories about the teams, about where they come from, and some of the like historical things about the county or wherever that high school is from, I think Chris usually does them too.
He's a nice guy, delightful guy, does a great job. And again, congratulations. He's inducted into the West Virginia Broadcasters Hall of Fame this weekend. Also inducted is a guy who got his start right here on this station, not with me or any of us, long time ago. Mike McVeigh, who is now one of the biggest names in broadcasting all across the country and has been for decades. But Mike's first radio station was AM 1370 in Moundsville. Back in the days when it was called WIFE, W-E-I-F. And their logo line was, "Everyone listens to their wife."
Oh, that's good.
That was a good line. And that was Mike's first job. And then he went into Wheeling, a station that's no longer around, called WNEU, which was a tremendously well-programmed radio station. Mike was an unbelievable talent, sharp, smart guy. I hated him because I was working at the other radio station up on the hill. And my buddy and I, who programmed the station, our station, and worked together, were just like, this guy, he's doing too good over there. But he left Wheeling, went to Charleston, and then from Charleston went to Los Angeles. From Los Angeles went all around the country, bought some radio stations, became an owner, sold the stations, became a consultant, was one of the biggest executives in a couple of the large media companies, always talking about all different kinds of programming, often on news and talk programming, and has a consultancy once again. Mike McVeigh also being inducted into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame in West Virginia this weekend. So I got some pretty big names, some good stuff going on there this weekend, and I'm pleased to see that. Again, Brenda Dainhart. Was Brenda last year? 2 years ago, I think, maybe. Brenda was inducted 2 years ago. And then I was inducted where I have my certificate around here someplace. I was inducted 3-4 years ago into the West Virginia Broadcasters Hall of Fame. I think that was Hoppy's doing, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody else in the state cared. Hoppy thought, I better get Monroe in here. You know what it was, Biffy? I think Hoppy thought, better get him in here before he dies.
Yeah, he needed some company in there. That's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah. So, anyways, and then a number of the TV7 people over the years have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and Brenda Dainhart was the most recent inductee, I think. I don't think it was last year. It must have been 2 years ago, I think. Anyway, congratulations to Chris Lawrence is how I began that whole thing. It's 9 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. A couple things coming up today. Hoppy's going to be spending a lot of time talking about the aftermath of Ida, what we can expect. Not just locally, we've been talking about it, but elsewhere in the state, there's going to be a lot of problems. Joe Lundberg from AccuWeather going to be in, plus some folks from the National Weather Service with Hoppy talking about the upcoming storm aftermath that we're going to see. Also with Hoppy today, Barb Fleischauer, who is, I did not know this, she is a Monongalia County delegate, but she was a Rosie the Riveter. I didn't know that. So they're going to be talking about an event coming up this weekend and much more coming up today. Statewide Talk Line, Hoppy, begins at 10. And I should mention one more thing real quick before I get to Bob. Today is the first of our Neil Brown press conferences, Biffy. The Neil Brown press conference today at noon, just before Bill DeFabio on the Variety Show. Is that an hour-long broadcast?
I believe it is.
I think it is. So from noon to 1 today, it's the Neil Brown press conference, and then Bill DeFabio on the Variety Show begins at 1. Let's see what they're working on over the Big 7, unless I miss my guess. Probably storm coverage or aftermath of storm coverage is one of the big stories, right, Bob?
Well, yeah, not yet, but we're covering all the preps. I know there's a meeting with the Ohio County Emergency Management. Tom Hart's reached out to us in Marshall County. We just talked to Becky over at Belmont County. Belmont County seems like a little less worried. Remember, we did a story over the summer where they had a group that was actually cleaning out the creeks and streams in the area. So it doesn't eliminate the possibility. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. But it certainly it eases the minds of a lot of people. So, it looks like we've got some rain coming our way. I know we're worried about creeks and streams tomorrow. I know Zach's been talking about it all morning, Dr. Dave all evening. Aaron will be out and about it today as well. And then again, he'll be back in tomorrow morning watching those creeks and streams. So, absolutely, the weather is the big thing. So that's kind of where we're working on today.
And we're one of those where it's I think Zach told us this morning anywhere from 1 to 4 inches, depending on where you are. So 1 is not that big a deal. 4 inches is a big deal. So we just kind of got to watch and wait and see how the storm actually tracks and what we get where, and different areas are going to get more. So you guys are going to be pretty busy today, I think.
Yeah. So it's we're a little bit of everywhere today. I know. Typical, situation with this kind of weather is a little bit of a wobble can, send it one way or another. Zach's upstairs right now. Dr. Dave will be in this afternoon and this evening. Aaron is out working some storm with the weather. So as we get ready for Ida, we've got that. One of the other stories we're working in conjunction with Ida is the fact of Marshall County Animal Shelter is taking animals from shelters in the Louisiana area, so they can clear out their shelter, so they can get animals that are now lost and homeless in Louisiana, so there's not overcrowding. So as I say all the time, I'm just always proud when somebody here in the Northern Panhandle or Eastern Ohio we always step up, even if we've been beat around, we step up to help others. Here's another great case. Marshall County Animal Shelter stepping up to take some animals and help take some of the pressure off of those guys working down in Louisiana this week. So
Absolutely.
That's going to be a great story. Stephanie's heading out to cover that story right now. Other thing we're going to talk to a high school. It only takes like 1 inch, 2 inches to cause hydroplaning when driving in this kind of weather. So we are going to talk to a trooper about what you need to do when it comes to those kind of situations. Because it's going to be, like you said, I think 4 inches, that's going to be a lot of rain on a road. So we're going to work on that as well. So that's something, again, it's pretty much all weather today.
So, yeah, and that's what, and for folks who want to keep on top of it, the Storm Tracker 7 app on your phone will help you do that. Keep an eye on the TV station here on the radio station. Keep an ear because we'll be following as much as we can. We're going to be okay during the day today, as you point out, Bob. I think today's
Right.
And then
Yes.
tonight and tomorrow, late afternoon, this evening, and tomorrow is where we see most of the problems coming. And I've been saying to our audience all along, if you're in an area that normally you have flooding problems, I'm talking about some drain backup or low creek stream flooding.
Yeah.
Be prepared. Give some thought to what you're going to do. You know, don't sit around and wait. Take some action.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. If your area normally floods, this is not going to be any different than any other time. So make plans. You know.
AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Have now withdrawn from Afghanistan.
All right, Biffy, we made it through. Wasn't too bad. Did we get all the breaks in? I was doing so good before about making sure I got my extra break, and now I'm back to not getting it in. But okay, I try to follow format. I just don't always succeed. All right, good. I'll check on that high school stream thing and see if we can do something different on Saturday, or at least maybe still do the stream, but also put it on VOI. That does make sense. I had thought about the fact that we didn't have an Ohio State game, so that's. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'll check on that and we'll see what happens. And was there something else I was supposed to check on? And then I got a note about that. I'll check on that too. All right, so I have work to do. Oh, damn. All right. If you need me, I should be around. I'll be home all day until I go to pick up Teddy, and then probably take a little ride around, look at the creeks and streams when the rain starts, and see what's going on. Exactly. I'll try and see if maybe, I don't know who, Lou Vargo or somebody might come on first thing in the morning and just give us a quick update. I'll see. I'll work on something. All right. If you need me, give me a call. Appreciate your help. Good show today. It always works because you know what you're doing, and half the time I don't. So I really appreciate your thinking. That's it. we always make it through to 10. Well, most days. We just get to 10. That's exactly right. All right. Call me if you need me. Otherwise, I'll talk to you in the morning. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia? It's a potentially serious bacterial lung disease that can disrupt your life for weeks. Help protect yourself with the Prevnar 13 pneumococcal 13 valent conjugate vaccine, diphtheria CRM 197 protein. Prevnar 13 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 13 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Prevnar 13 does not protect against all strains of the disease. Ask your doctor or pharmacist today about Prevnar